Welcome to a look into the future. Today, we are talking about the 8th generation of the iPad mini. This is easily one of the most loved tablets Apple has ever made. It is small. It is powerful. But it is starting to show its age. We are going to look at the latest leaks and rumors. We are also going to look at what fans actually want to see in 2026. To make things simple, I have ranked these features. We have the guaranteed column for things that are definitely coming. We have the maybe column for things that are possible. Finally, we have the not likely column for features that are probably just dreams. Let's start with the most important part of any tablet. We need to talk about the display. If you have used the new M5 iPad Pro, you know how good a screen can look. It is super bright. The colors are perfect. When you go back to the current iPad mini, it feels like a step backward. The good news is that reputable sources are already talking about a change. The iPad mini 8 is expected to get an OLED panel. This is huge news. OLED provides much better contrast. The blacks are deeper. The colors pop more. Rumors suggest we will see this in 2026. In fact, some say the mini will get OLED before other mid-range iPads. Because the screen is the biggest complaint right now, I am putting OLED in the guaranteed column. But technology is not just about the type of panel. It is about how smooth it feels. Right now, the iPad mini is stuck at a 60 Hz refresh rate. In a world where every Pro iPhone has 120 Hz, this feels old. It makes the device feel slower than it actually is. If you use a Pro device and then switch to the mini, you notice the lag. This leads us to the famous jelly scrolling issue. This is when one side of the screen moves faster than the other. It has bothered users since the 7th generation. The fix for this is a 120 Hz variable refresh rate. This is also called promotion. I believe Apple is finally ready to bring this to the small screen. It is no longer just a Pro feature. It is a modern standard. This goes straight into the guaranteed column too. Next, we need to look at how you unlock the device. Right now, we have Touch ID in the power button. It works well. It is easy to reach. Many people like it. Think about pilots or doctors who use this device. They often wear masks or gear that makes Face ID hard to use. However, Apple is moving away from Touch ID on almost every other high-end device. They have the technology to put Face ID in small bezels now. It would make the iPad mini feel much more premium. But is it necessary? Maybe not. I am putting Face ID in the maybe category. It would be a nice luxury, but it isn't a deal-breaker for most fans. While we are looking at the front of the device, let's talk about the camera. On the new iPad Pro and Air, Apple moved the camera. It is now on the long side. This is better for video calls when the tablet is in landscape mode. But the iPad mini is different. People hold the mini like a book. They hold it like a phone. Most people use it in portrait mode. I use mine for video calls in landscape, but I might be in the minority. Moving the camera requires moving the magnets for the Apple Pencil. It is a big design change for a small device. Because of how people naturally hold the mini, I think Apple will leave the camera where it is. This goes into the not likely column. Now, let's talk about the brain of the machine. The iPad mini 7 uses the A17 Pro chip. It is a fast chip. It can handle games and apps easily. But it is not an M-series chip. The iPad Air and Pro use M-series chips. These are the same chips found in MacBooks. They are incredibly powerful. They handle photo editing and AI tasks much faster. So, will the iPad mini 8 finally get an M-series chip? This is a tough one. The mini is a very small device. Small devices have trouble with heat. M-series chips need good cooling and a lot of power. If Apple puts an M chip in the Mini, the battery life might drop. The battery is already quite small. Apple has to find a balance between power and battery life. I want to see an M chip, but for now, I am putting it in the maybe column. If we do get an M series chip, it unlocks a huge feature. I am talking about proper external display support. Right now, if you plug a Mini into a monitor, it just mirrors the screen. You get big black bars on the sides. It looks terrible. The iPad Air and Pro can use a monitor like a second desktop. Apple says this requires the power of the M chip. If the Mini 8 stays on an A series chip, we might never get this. It would transform the Mini into a tiny workstation. Imagine plugging this little device into a desk setup and having a full desktop experience. It is a dream for many users. Because it depends so much on the chip choice, this stays in the maybe column for now. Let's move on to something more unusual. Let's talk about the speakers. The current speakers are okay, but they aren't great. They sound a bit thin compared to the larger iPads. There are reports that Apple is working on a new design. They might use something called vibration conduction. This would allow the device to produce sound without traditional speaker holes. Why would they do this? It makes the device much easier to waterproof. Imagine an iPad mini you can use by the pool without any worry. If they change the speakers, they can seal the body better. This is a very interesting rumor. I am putting improved speakers and better water resistance in the guaranteed category. It is time for a hardware refresh. If they remove the speaker holes, what about the charging port? Some people think Apple wants a portless iPad. They could use magnetic charging like the MagSafe on iPhones. This would make the device look very clean. But there is a problem. Many people use the USB-C port to transfer large files. They use it for cameras and hard drives. Moving files over AirDrop is slow for professional work. A portless design might be too bold right now. I think Apple will keep the USB-C port, but they might make it faster. I am putting the no port idea in the not likely column. However, a faster USB-C port is a maybe. Finally, for this section, let's talk about the design itself. The iPad mini has some pretty big borders around the screen. We call these bezels. In 2026, these will look very old. People want a screen that goes from edge to edge. If Apple slims down the bezels, they can fit a bigger screen in the same size body. Or, they could keep the screen size and make the whole device even smaller. You still need a little bit of room to hold the device without touching the screen. But the current bezels are definitely too thick. Slimming them down is a guaranteed upgrade. It is the easiest way to make the device look brand new.